Morning everyone, we're back out doing the stage 2 of the Northumberland coastal path. So this time we're starting from Warkworth, which was the end point of last week. Got my mate Luke with me.
Oh yeah.
And so last time we did it where I dropped the car at the finish line, but I couldn't work out how the buses were running, so we're parked here. We'll walk to Craster and then we'll get the bus back. And at the moment there's no wind, which is a refreshing change compared to last week where I was constantly ducking under anything I could to get a bit of protection from the wind so the noise wasn't too bad. But it's a lovely morning, sun's up and the river's dead calm. I don't know if you're going to pick them up there, but there's some migratory geese coming across. So we're just coming down now onto the south end of Warkworth Beach. It's a belting morning. We've got the golf course just over here, so we'll have to get the noise down. Just waiting for the golfers. So the tide's not in after all. We might go down onto the sand. So we've made it down onto the beach, and as far as the eye can see, there's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 people on a stretch of beach that's probably 4 or 5 mile long. And I think the only reason they're here, in all fairness, is because up on the top there's a caravan park. So, but it's and people are chatty and friendly and saying hello. Talking to this woman here that's walking a dog. This is one of her daily dog walking routes. I said, "You're absolutely spoilt rotten coming down here." So, we'll see what the rest of the actual path does go through the dunes, and it is well signposted, this section. It's been dead easy to follow. Sorry, I bet you've got sun. So again, we're walking north, so the sun's on our back and it is strong this morning, but the path goes through the dunes. So if the tide was in and you didn't want to walk on the soft sand, it's pretty good going through the dunes, and it's much better signposted, this top end, than the first section going through the dunes at Cresswell. It's an obvious path. This couldn't be any better. This stretch of beach now, there's one person down there. And I can't. And there's a couple of footprints here. So there's been about 4 people on it all day, and it is just couldn't be better. Looks like this caravan park. Yeah, looks absolutely mint. They look a bit precarious, some of them. I don't think I'd want to be in that one when it's windy. Yeah. Yeah, if the wind was coming off the land, that's a long way to fall. But nevertheless, on a day like this when there's no wind, where could you get any better? We're coming along the beach rather than the path, and we're now going to head up the big dune just in front. So if you're coming along the beach, it's the last big, or the tallest of the dunes. It's quite grassy from the beach side as opposed to sandy, but you'll see the view from the top. It's worth the clamber up the soft sand. So we'll show you from the top when we get up there. So we're up the top of the dune. There, we came up straight off the beach.
Yeah.
And all I can say is it was a blooming steep one. It was properly like hands and scrambling up it. So I've just got my breath back now and show you the view from the top. Obviously the sun's in the way a little bit behind, so it's going to be difficult to get the best of it. But Allenmouth itself, which is in the distance over there, as we get closer I'll show you the river again, but the river passes out in front of it, but it didn't used to. So the building that you can see down here in the fields, in years gone by, that was actually a harbourside warehouse, and the river used to come from over in the distance over there through where you can see this sort of marshy area round the back of there, and then come out over that bit there where the dunes are a bit lower. And then it was back in this Christmas Day 1806, there was a storm, the river got into flood, and then just in front of the village it actually burst its banks, gushed through into the sea, and ever since then that's been the permanent course that the river's taken. So yeah, first time I saw this building here I just assumed it was a derelict farm building, barn, but that's not the case. So from the top of the dunes here we're now going to cut down towards that farm, the old warehousey thing, and pick up a track through the very back of the dunes, which again is well marked, it's flat, to the little hill that's just in the distance there. So we'll get over there and I'll bring you back for another chat. But before I go, I will have one little rant. So I know Duke of Northumberland always watches me videos and stuff, but Your Grace, I thought it was a bit miserable the way you've blocked off the track. So down here and then going off up the lane across yonder, there was a track that you used to be able to drive down, park your cars along here and then just come through onto the beach. And then through lockdown it was perceived that there was too many camper vans coming down there and leaving litter, which is a right load of rubbish. That wasn't the case at all. Somebody requested a Freedom of Information Act, and there was only actually one complaint put in, and as a consequence there's now a wooden post stuck at the top so you can't drive down. So I just think it's miserable. I think it's a lovely stretch of beach this, and it's now become inaccessible to a lot of people. You know, you can still get down, you can still walk, but instead of it being a couple of 100 yards through the dunes, you know, you've got to walk a lot further. You've got to cross the road at the top, which is, you get some nutcases driving along there. It's a good little spot down here for wildlife spotting as well. Just telling Luke where this barn is here, and the on the fence posts, and then fluttering around. I took a photograph once with 3 barn owls, and then in the field at the back 3 deer, all in the same picture. So it's lovely, and got a marshy area across there, so you get wading birds and curlews and stuff like that. So it's and I suppose maybe the benefit of blocking this off to vehicles now, you maybe get even a better experience with the wildlife, but I still think it was a bit miserable blocking it off. This is a little detour off the main path now, just to get a nicer view of Allenmouth. So we're coming through the dunes. Depending when you come, this little track here is like a vehicle track. We just must have had a high tide and it's flooded. We can get down here. And again, this originally, this would have been the path for the river. More geese coming in, making a racket. And you can see at high tide, you see all the dry leaves and debris and that washes up. It's still very tidal and can flood. But I'll just get to the end of this puddly bit here and just skip across I'll share a little foraging secret with you. In fact, I don't have to cross some here. So it's a good area for collecting wild samphire. I mean, it's past its best now this time of year. Normally it's a very deep green colour, but it's quite nice. It's salty. You don't need a lot of it, but it grows in abundance. So yeah, still it's one of them. You don't. It's more of a garnish than a staple. You don't need a lot of it, but it does give you a little bit of natural salt. Here we've got a old pillbox. There's loads of them dotted on the coastline, dating back to the war. And then dead ahead, we've got the mausoleum. And it was the mausoleum, really, after I first visited, that got me into trying to understand what was what, because it doesn't make sense. You've got the village on the other side of the river, the mausoleum's here, and then you've literally got to go right around the Wrekin to get to it. And I thought, what was the point of doing that? But this dates back to before the river changed its course. So I'm surprised somebody's not snapped it up and made it into an Airbnb, because the location's brilliant. Nice little view out across the estuary. You can see where the timbers would have sat. I don't know actually whether the timbers would have sat there. Oh, they probably would, because you'd have the supporting rafters and then the other ones going above the level of the window frame. Possibly, I don't know. I don't know what would have, that would then cut that window in half, so maybe it wasn't. I don't know, I'm not an architect. But this is featured on Vera, one of the episodes. There was a murder in here, and yeah, Vera was in here with a plastic overshoes and a paper overall, doing the whole forensic thing. Lovely, it's a bit of a puffing getting up this hill, but lovely little view of Allenmouth village. So it's, you can see the estuary going out. It's quite a dodgy, I've come up here in my boat, now I'm looking at it at low tide. I can see why I was struggling, because I was trying to come in across there and it just got really, really shallow, even at high tide. And now you can see where the path of the channel is. It's a bit dicey if you don't know what you're doing. So this bit here, at low tide, to be fair, if you wanted to take your shoes and socks off and walk across, you can, and it will cut off probably, I don't know, maybe because the path takes you all the way up. I think it goes through the top of the fields actually, down, and then there's a bridge over here in the distance that you come across, and then once you come across the river, you're following the estuary and the edge of the village all the way around this side, which I'm sure is going to be a lovely walk. But you know, from here to the beach there, as the crow flies, it's 200 metres. The way we're going to go, it could be 1.5 miles too. And again, Vera's been filmed on that side. On one of the earlier episodes, they actually built a jetty just for filming, did the filming and then took it down again. We've just come down off the hill. You might see the, oh actually that's a mast off a boat that doesn't really look like it should be parked there. But this area here, during the war, used to be a military firing range, a rifle range. So if you walk around in the dunes just there, depending how the wind's been blowing and things, it's not uncommon to find the odd rifle, spent rifle cartridge. Nothing of any value, but keeps the kids amused if you want to get them out for a walk. Yeah. So we've come back down and picked up the path. You're going up the track that the Duke doesn't let you play on anymore, and then pick up the path. Again, if Hayes Outdoors is watching this, our latch and lock leaves a lot to be desired in Northumberland. They get worse as you go on. Estuary View Caravans and Allenmouth self-catering holidays. On face value, they look very nice. Some cracking little holiday lets along here. So we're now just turning with our back to the coast. I think it's only about one field's length up here, and then we pick the fields up. So come up the track, get to the top. Again, it's well signposted to pick up this path around the back of the fields. Things are starting to warm up now. I just hope the dreaded wind isn't going to be too bad. And then again, across there we've got the view of Allenmouth, and over here you can just maybe see the level crossing there. So the Queen used to get the train to stop just along this bit here so she could enjoy the view. When you see it from here, you can't blame her, can you? Looks lush. But as you can hear the cars whizzing past in the background, Your Grace, it would be a lot better if you could drive down that track and park rather than taking your life in your hands to cross this road here. That's a nice little spot to have a breather. Dedication to Michelle Turnbull.
Did a break or?
Would
you want to carry on?
Nah, carry on. A pheasant just hiding here. Watch this. Oh, there she goes. Like the Wile E. Coyote. So one of my next adventures is going to be trig bagging. I've just bought a book on where all the trig points are in Northumberland, and I've done a couple already, and I've done plenty in the past, but I'm going to try and pick them off one at a time now. So up in the distance, again, you're probably not getting it with a GoPro, but there's one on the hill up there. So in the future I'll be taking you up there to have a look at that view. We're 3/4 of a mile to Allenmouth, 4 miles that we've done from Warkworth. So we're now crossing the River Allen, which is, we're just discussing the pronunciation of it. So it's spelled A-L-N, the locals pronounce it Allen, so it's Allenmouth, the River Allen, and then Annick is A-L-A-N, Wick, and the locals pronounce it Annick. So well, just an observation. So we crossed the road, and now we're coming down parallel to the river again. It's nice and cool in the shade. So that up in the distance is the cross where we were previously. And then we've had to walk up around the back of that bungalow, around the top of the fields, and back down. So while we're walking up here, and there's not too many people about to stare at us like I'm a nutcase talking into a camera, Allenmouth's got a hotel, and it's called the Schooner. It's meant to be one of the most haunted places in Northumberland. There's a history of massacres and suicides and murders and all sorts that have gone on there, and they reckon there's 60 different ghosts and ghoulies that inhabit the place. So we won't actually walk past it because we're looping around the outside of the village, and it's sort of down the high street. But yeah, if you fancy a visit and if you're brave enough, the Schooner is the place to stay. The oldest 9-hole golf club in England. now we're on to Allenmouth Beach. Noticeably busier. I mean, it is a lovely stretch of beach, but it is generally busy like this. And Boxing Day, if it's sunny on Boxing Day, it's absolutely heaving down here. There's a car park just in the above the dunes there. You have to drive through the golf course. It's dead reasonable. It's about 50p or something to park. It's not a lot, but it does get, as I say, quite busy, especially if it's high tide and there's not enough beach for you to spread out. And granted, it's not Bournemouth or and dogs are allowed, which they're not allowed on a lot of other beaches. So every bugger's got a dog. A couple of nice properties up on the hill here. Yeah. So we've now just rounded the headland. Signs in the distance just there for the coastal path, but we're sticking to the beach. The sand's firm, the view's good, and if you were on the proper path, that would be Foxton Golf Course at the top of there, which it's although it's a golf course, it's open to the public if you wanted to call in and have a coffee and a bite to eat. Spot on. And I think, although don't quote me on it if you get clamped, I think there are some public car parking spaces within their car park, but just double check on that. I don't want to get the blame for anybody getting the ticket. Another gaggle of geese in the sky and a murmuration of starlings overhead. So we're now approaching Boomer on the coastal path, just off the beach, and hopefully the wind's not picking up too much to create any wind noise, but there is a breeze now. So over in the distance here is RAF Boomer, and it was used back in the war as a proper base. Then more recently it was used by the big yellow rescue helicopters, but again, due to changes, cutbacks or whatever, it isn't used anymore. So I think the rescue helicopters now come all the way up from Hull, somewhere like that, which if you were neck deep in the drink, I think you'd prefer that they were a bit more local, but it is what it is. And I've got a pal who does some stuff for the RNLI, but he also does some stuff with the helicopter rescue. So a few years back at Wansbeck Hospital, they got a helipad before it was modernised, and they get the phone call. Basically what they do is they'll transfer a casualty from the helicopter into A&E. They then get the stretcher and everything, clean it down, get it prepped, bring it back to the helicopter, and then the helicopter's away to go off and be operational again. And he's on that ground crew. So he rocks up one night and they flicked the switch to put the lights on the helipad, and the lights didn't come on. So they radioed up to the pilot and said, explain the situation. He said, don't worry about it, I'll use the headlamps on the helicopter and come in and just land it normally, which he did, no problem. Casualty gets sorted out. Turns out it was Prince William was the pilot. So grandmother would be proud of you, kid, landing with no lights. Anyway, we're nearly there. Just looking at these two posts here, the red and white paint on. So out in the bay, you've got a natural harbour with a gap through the middle. So if you're out in your boat, if you can line yourself up with these two posts being one behind the other, then that is your safe passage through the rocks, so you don't run aground. You can't see it at the moment, it's sort of mid-tide, but that's what they're for. So we just come out of Boomer, and now the track goes across the fields. So been joined with a couple of friends, but one of them's camera shy, so yeah, I've got to keep me back, keep me front to him. This is Long Horton Beach, just down here. beautiful little secluded bay. If you drive through Longhorton, you can come down through a track through the fields, put £1 in the honesty box and park in the back of the dunes. They have restricted the parking area over the last year or so. There's not as, you can't really spread out as much as you used to be able to, but it's still a beautiful little spot. And even if you just want to bring the car down on a blustery day and sit there and have a cup of cocoa, it's a lovely spot to watch the sea or dolphin watch, or just sit there and get a sea view. And I'm now heading down to bottom end of Howick estate. The rest of the party's cracked on ahead because they're camera shy, but we're shortly approaching Howick, so when we get to Howick I'll bring you back and show you a couple of lovely little spots along.
Pick up one of them.
Down at the little bay at Howick, and we're just debating whether all of these inscriptions on here, whether it's art or graffiti, but Howick Camp 1902, 3 and 4, and so this is called Rumbling Cairn, and the reason being that when the waves are just right and the tide's just right, you can walk under there at low tide, but as it kind of sloshes in and out, it makes a sort of sound, so that's how it got its name, Rumbling Cairn. And then just come down here. So this cliff here, I'll try and dig a bit of footage out. You can jump off that, but you need to know what you're doing with the tide. So if you look at this stretch of rock here, where the rock is that's just poking through there, when that's submerged, that's your sort of depth gauge to know that you've got enough depth to jump in here. Right, you see where the weed is? Like there. You see that's where you've got to sort of jump towards. It's also a cracking little spot to have a rest and look out for dolphins, especially on a day like this when it's flat calm. Last time we were here they were just literally maybe 100 metres offshore, pod of 6 of them. Brilliant. This property is called the Bath House, which was owned by Earl Grey, as in Earl Grey tea, and the estate's probably about 3/4 of a mile up the road, and they used to come down here. They had 13 kids, and Mrs Earl Grey would sit in the top floor and the kids would be down in the rock pools having a swim and a bathe. It's a lovely place. Starts at £1,275 a week. It's holiday let, but I don't know if you can see the chimneys. There's an odd chimney and it messes up with me feng shui, but it's a beautiful spot. When the tide's out, there's lots of natural rock pools that are just very steep sided and deep, almost like little jacuzzis, and you can get in. So Mrs Earl Grey would be sat doing her knitting, watching the kids playing in the rock pools below. A little boat out there just pulling pots. So this here is Colour Nose Point. Good little fishing spot on the end and a good little jumping spot, but again you've got to check your depths. So if you go down onto the beach and swim out with a mask and snorkel and just check, you can have some good fun. Well, this is us, nearly at our destination. Can't talk now because we've gone into the pub beer garden, but we're at Craster Harbour. So I will do a little bit more filming in a bit, but we're going to have a pint now, just out of to be sociable. So just going in the Jolly Fisherman for a cheap pint. Which is just over the road from the smokehouse where you can get Craster kippers. If you look up at the vents, upper height up there, that's the smokehouse, and that's all the just the oily, smoky crap that comes out the top. But the kippers and the salmon are absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend them. Craster Harbour. We've just been in the beer garden over the back, but as you can see, it was chock-a-block with people. I couldn't be doing any talking. So we're now going to head back up to the tourist information place just up there. Hopefully we haven't just missed a bus, and we'll get the bus back to Warkworth. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. From here to, I think it's Sea Houses. Maybe just pick out Dunstanburgh Castle in the distance up there, but we'll be going past there. Take it easy, and I'll catch you. That's us back. Just got off the bus at Warkworth. It was comedy moment of the day. Got to the bus stop at Craster, checked the timetable, and it was like 6 minutes away. And I just had a pint. I thought I need to run and have a wee. Went for a wee. Bus was coming. Had to run for it. And I'm not cut out for running, especially after 15 mile and with the backpack on. But no harm done. Got it. Now we're back. So catch you on the next one.